Welcome to Gold Trails and Ghost Towns. I'm Mike Roberts, and I'm with Bill Barley, who's been our tour guide for historical travels through British Columbia, the Northwest Territories, and parts of the Pacific Northwest. Today we're going to take a look at an old-time camp. Now, all the other towns we've talked about have been real towns, communities, but this one's called Camp McKinney. Where's Camp McKinney, Bill?
Well, Camp McKinney is on the eastern part of the Okanagan, between the Okanagan and the Boundary Country, Mike, in the southern interior of British Columbia.
Why didn't it become a town?
Probably never got beyond the 300 mark in population, maybe 350 possibly, but around 250, 300 people, never did become a town.
And with that kind of population, was it short-lived?
Fairly short-lived, about 15 years, Mike.
Okay. And it has some great stories associated with it. We haven't heard much of the violence of the early mining days, because BC seemed to be a pretty calm place, but there's some violence here.
There is. A very fascinating story, a treasure story, well known, and some debate about it, considerable amount of violence, some fascinating characters play a part in this story, too.
All right. We're going to take a look at Camp McKinney, a lode mining town, when we come back after this break. About Camp McKinney, this country down there has got some, well, it's pretty harsh country in the first place, but names like Anarchist Mountain associated. Where did that name come from?
Well, Anarchist is just south of Camp McKinney, named after a man called Sidley, who had homesteaded in the area, and he was such an anarchist, they decided to name the whole mountain after him. Well, interesting, fascinating character.
Well, obviously was a pillar of the society he wanted to tear down.
Yeah.
The people who came into this country, were they Americans?
Most of them, most of the early men into this country were placer men and then hard rock men, and the bulk of them were Americans, drifting in from the Washington Territory and Oregon and California.
Pretty rough country.
Yeah, in some respects, Mike. Mountainous country, but still kind of semi-arid, because you're in the southern part of the Okanagan, the southern part. This type of country we're looking at in this photograph here. So they wandered through this. Fairly easy to get through, but they were going through passes and mountain ranges and so on all the time. And this particular shot is of Rock Creek. And this probably started it all, because in the late 1850s, they discovered placer gold in Rock Creek. And, of course, the miners were aware that the placer gold had to come from somewhere. Probably came from very, very close by. And so after the initial rush to Rock Creek petered out, the hard rock men came in and began looking for these quartz stringers and so on, and these veins that they felt that would have given the gold to Rock Creek. And, of course, some of these men, 4 men came in, and this is how Camp McKinney got its name. One of them was a guy called McKinney, and his 3 partners. They found the quartz stringers and the quartz leads that had free gold in them, and they established a town called Camp McKinney.
And was this gold easy to access? So you needed to put in a pretty substantial operation to get the gold out.
Yeah, but it was free gold, Mike. I mean, you could actually see it in the quartz. Yeah. So it wasn't that difficult to mill. They could actually mill it down and grind it down and come up with free gold. Now,
there's something very popular about the name Caribou. Even this was miles and miles, hundreds of miles from the Caribou. But one of the first mills that we've got a shot of is the Caribou Amelia.
That's right. This is the most famous mine in Camp McKinney in the early 1890s, right through to about 1904. And this particular mine produced many hundreds of thousands of dollars in gold ore at $20 an ounce, Mike. And so there were other mines there. There was the Emma and the Alice and the Okanagan and the Little Caribou. But the Caribou Amelia was the king of the hill.
And it had how many stamps in it? 5, 6,
well, 7? I can't remember offhand, but I think it would probably be at least a 20-stamp mill.
And so it pounded out the gold on a daily basis.
Not only that, they were able to pour the bricks right there.
Yeah. This is the bunkhouse of one of the other mines.
This is the bunkhouse of the Little Caribou.
And are those some of the employees of the Little Caribou mine?
These are a number of the employees, about 20 employees of the Little Caribou, who was trying to make it into a paying proposition.
This is one of the stock certificates from the Little Caribou. It wasn't quite as successful as the Caribou Amelia.
No, but looking at the stock certificate, this certificate is dated 1899, 10 cents a share. And the individual who bought this, of course,
Harry Wright
from Nelson, and he paid $200 at that time, which was a significant amount of money. So he was gambling that the Little Caribou would turn into another Caribou Amelia.
But unfortunately didn't.
Didn't.
But as long as there was the Caribou Amelia around,